If you watched my declutter a while ago, you know that I did not only declutter palettes and put them back into the shelf, I also, aside the declutter pile, did a maybe pile with palettes where I was unsure. Do I want to keep them? Do I want to declutter them? I just don't know what to think about them because some of these I haven't used, for example, in all 2024. Others I did use, but I was like, meh. And I thought, let's do the same thing as I do with my Cleona series. So I put all of the palettes that are on that maybe pile in a Wheel of Fortune. And in this video, I show you 3 looks with 3 different palettes. And before each look, I spin the wheel, let the wheel decide which palette we are going to use. And then I decide at the end of the look, if I want to keep it, what the fuck, if I want to keep it or not. This look, by the way, is the 3rd that you will see in the video, and I can already tell you the palette that I used for this went back into the shelf. So, no further rambling, let's just head into the 3 looks. Okay, let's spin the wheel for the first maybe palette from the pile, and I'm quite curious, what are we going to start with? The Glamlite Coca. I guess I meant Coca-Cola because I think the other one is called Glamlite Cherry. Yeah, Glamlite Cherry, I see it. If you haven't watched my declutter video, you are maybe surprised why this is on the maybe pile because this is fairly new. And don't get me wrong, it is a beautiful palette. It is a beautiful color story. I really love it. But I just have a problem with the quality. And my other problem is that I don't like Glamlite as a brand. I like the quality in general, and my quality problem with this is it is too pigmented. I know, sounds weird, but see my review on this. It's just too much. And I get so easily distracted by the packaging. I try to get a focus now here on the palette without the packaging. I want to create also something this time that is a bit different than what's obvious here in this palette, and obvious is red and black. I want to create something, well, with red and black, yes, but the focus should be a bit different. So let's see what I can come up with. Since I know that these are just hyper pigmented, I try to work different this time. So I go into the 3rd shade in the 2nd row with a small brush, and I place this one directly in the outer V area and then blend it inwards. Actually, that went on a bit patchy and I had to re-dip and re-blend. Now it's better. So either the brush doesn't work with this or I just picked up not enough. But it's also kind of hard to blend out. It's super weird. With another soft but slightly smaller brush, I now go into the lighter matte here. This one I use slightly above the crease and blend this basically in that area here and then up to the brow as my transition color. I then take a flat and even brush like that and tap into the black with the red shimmer to it. And I press this into the lash line. Oh, there's the voice. Oh, the voice was gone. Oh my God. I press it just into the lash line is what I try to cough into the mic. I now go into the 3rd shade of the 2nd row. And that one I apply all over my lid. And then I take one of the brushes from the beginning and I go through the crease again to break up any harsh glitter line. I go with a rusty color or a brassy color for liner. This is Overboard from ColourPop, and it's not that overboard to be honest. And I use this to line my waterline. I know I have some black eyeshadow here, but that's actually not a problem. I just mix it in. I then go into the darker warmish brown matte eyeshadow. And I use this to smudge it across my lower lash line. I wanted to incorporate one of the reds, either the matte or the shimmer, but honestly, I don't think it would match the look at this point. I then go into the lighter matte, and that one I basically use on top and underneath to just diffuse everything. Honestly, that kind of destroyed the look a bit. I don't like that. So let me go back into the darker matte and just intensify it a bit. It looks sick, like not the good sick, sick, ill sick like. I now go into the can shade here, that super intense metallic silver. And that one I apply as my inner corner highlight, applied here a bit on the inner lid part and also a bit here on the lower lash line. Honestly, that silver is probably one of the best shades in the whole palette. And here we have the finished look with the Glamlite Coca-Cola palette, and on the lips I chose Charlotte Tilbury 90s pink. Such a pretty color. But that's not what the video is about, so honestly, I'm not feeling it. I do think this is a pretty look. I think I made a nice looking look, especially with a bit of a different technique than what I usually do. So I do not feel like I over blended something, like there was too much to blend away and then it constantly got more and more and more. But I'm also not feeling it. And here's my problem. I just love the design and the packaging so much, which is the only reason why I actually bought this, because again, I'm in a dispute with Glamlite. But at the end of the day, this palette is full of colors that I own. And for me to have a joyful moment with this by just having to watch out what kind of technique am I using is not the right way for me. So first look of the video, first palette from the maybe pile, and this now goes from the maybe pile to the declutter pile, honestly. Now move over to the next palette. So let's spin the wheel here for the second maybe palette, and today I will be using my Mothership Mega that's on the maybe pile. And the one that's on the maybe pile is the Celestial Nirvana. It was the first palette where Pat McGrath did a bit of more a colorful take on it. Honestly, when I now look at it, I kind of regret putting it in the maybe pile because I'm quite excited to use this. So maybe it was good that I put it in the maybe pile. Since this palette is basically neutral with pops of colors, this is what I'm aiming for. Kind of neutral, a little bit colorful, a little bit dark maybe even. I don't know. We will see. There are some shades in here that I absolutely adore, like this up here. This is Lunar Lavender. It's so pretty. Then just directly this one, Eternal Amour and Aquarian Dream is super pretty. Some of these, like everything in here is quite pretty, and the palette, if you have problems just seeing this in color story, divide it in your mind into 6 pans. So you have this 6 pan, this 6 pan, and this 6 pan. But you can also do like this quad, this quad, this quad, this, you get the deal. These palettes are really designed to just work, but you can also, if you're more like me, work across all the shades. So I talked myself into the palette, but let's just start now with a look. And I'm starting with this here. This is Desert Divinity. And I use this on a fluffy brush and apply this softly in the crease, but mainly blow it out towards the brow. The quality of these 18 pan palettes from Pat McGrath is very much different to the Motherships, or to the regular Motherships, that being said. Although these palettes are made in Italy, like a lot of her palettes, these are quality-wise just so different. Personally, for example, I find the mattes in the Mothership Megas much better than especially in the older Motherships. Mothership 10 and 11 I don't like as much in general, but I like the mattes in those better. But no matter if Mothership Mega or regular Mothership, her mattes are buildable, so I'm building up the second layer now. We have January right now, and I want to do something blue icy with the neutral take. So I go into the matte blue. This is Nocturnal Navy. And I apply this on the outer half of the crease. And then I bring it down in the cat liner shape, as always, to the lashes here on the outer V part. I think most of the looks that I've done so far with this Mega did not include the blue specifically. So I played with the green a lot, which is staining. If you mind that, I don't care because it's washing away the next day. And a lot with this side of the palette, so the reds, and so I'm quite excited to explore the blues more. I now tap into Nightfall, the dark brown. And that one I use on my inner crease part for the depth. And I connect it to Nocturnal Navy, so that we have a nice dark gradient here in the crease. I picked up some more of Nocturnal Navy and I decided to actually slightly fill in this triangle here. I now applied some glitter glue and I want to go into the blue. It's Aquarian Dream. And that one I tap here on top of the matte blue. And now we're kind of breaking the scheme. I go into this shade. This is Bronze Infatuation. Infatuation? You know what I mean. And that shade I tap carefully here on the rest of the lid. And where they both now meet, I just flick it on top and then just wiggle it in a bit. To move on with the neutral vibe, I take the Nabla Cosmetics Cupid's Arrow in the shade Cappuccino. It's technically a stick shadow, but I use them just as liner. And I line with this nice cappuccino-y shade, my waterline. And I then go into this nice reddy brown. This is called Auburn Allure. And I use this to smudge it here on the lower lash line. And then I take Desert Divinity and use this to blend it out. For the inner corner, I go into Lunar Lavender and dab this on. And here we have the finished look. On the lips, I went with only lip balm since I do have some dried, cracked up lips and it just looks weird with stuff on. I enjoyed what I did. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed what I did previously with this palette. How unique is it in my collection? Honestly, since I am so torn, and since this is, I would even call this, it has a status of a collector's item at this point, I keep it so far. But I will make a note in my Excel spreadsheet, because when there is the next declutter, and I still think of this as a declutter, as a potential declutter, I will let go of this probably. But so far, this is the first time where I really seriously thought of decluttering this. I think I can let it pass through, so this goes back into my collection. And now to the last palette of this video. And we're hopping right into the last spin of this video with the last palette from the maybe pile. And today it is the Viseart Coyish. The Viseart Coyish is their answer to the duochromes. And Viseart is a professional brand. It's not that indie punch that people expect. So a lot of people are maybe even a bit disappointed with this type of formulation. But I do like the Viseart shadows. I do agree so that these duochromes, as they call them, some of them are not true duochromes. They are just basically the base shade thrown in with some different looking metallics. So this is just a different vibe. But I put this in the declutter pile because of that. Because usually I'm more for the punchy side, but I want to create something, of course, with this palette, and since this is a Viseart palette, I will of course pull in a Viseart matte. I'm using the 25-year edition, the neutral mattes. This is like the staple of matte eyeshadow palettes, and if you, shameless plug here, if you want to get this or any other Viseart palette, I'm affiliated luckily with them, so you can save 10% on the website with my code Ella10. Oh, and if you remember, in my You Don't Need That Shit video where I talked about the new Natasha Denona, the Sculpt Quint, someone was commenting that they much rather would like to have the Viseart, the Sculpt palette for eyebrows and hairline. And I was just reminded that everything that I said about the Natasha Denona Quint, I find in this palette. So they talked me officially out of buying this unnecessary palette for me. But I will start this look with, I glued all the shade names up here. I go into this shade. This is beige, and I use this on a sloppy brush, and I start to apply this in my crease and then into the transition area. This is basically just a very, very typical beigey bone colored, as the name says, transition shade that I use as base for an easier blend. Usually when I have palettes like this that contain shades like this, I don't set my primer with a powder. I use an eyeshadow, but since I didn't know when I primerized what eyeshadow I'm going to use, I just use another one. I now tap into this cool tone shade down here. This is Cendre. And I apply this into the crease, and then I let it flow out here in my transition area, but not as high as the base shade. I then tap into the gray next to it. This is called Souris. I think it's Souris. And that one I apply in the outer V and up to the center of the crease. And then I also go into Carbon. This is the black, super tiny brush, and I basically shadow out here the outer V. I know that the last time I used this palette, I focused a lot on these purpley shades, but I haven't used the most interesting one, which is this here. This is called Transformation. This is a true duochrome. So I start actually with this shade, because this is an oil spilly shade. I know you hate probably when I say this, but I just love that. And I start to apply this on the inner lid part. And I bring it out. Oh, okay. I told you they are not indie punch, and they aren't, but boy, they have a nice impact. Okay. Wasn't expecting that. Probably because they just look so bland in the pan. Is that the right description for what I'm feeling? They look so nothingness in the pan, but actually now on the eyes, it's very, very pretty. And they are thinner. So some of these indie multichromes, they are thick. They go on like paint, which I love. But these feel thin, which I like too. So to complement this shade and to have the deeper outer part too, yeah, take the green here. This is Courage. I think it's Courage since it's French. And I tap this here on the most outer part of my lid, and where they meet, I just blend them into each other. So this shade, for example, is not duochromy as Transformation is. This is really just this dark metallic green with some sort of, I would say, silvery golden specks. It's both, honestly. And I take one of the brushes that I just used and go through the crease again with no additional product. The lower lash line, I go back into Carbon from Viseart, and I apply this very, very close on the lower lash line. And then I go into the gray next to it, Souris, I guess it's Souris, I just don't know. And I use this to blend that out. Tap into Tennessee here, this light purple, and I smudge this here on top of the blend. I just want to have this hint of shimmer there. I don't know why. Usually I do this with the inner corner highlight, but I don't know what I want to do. And now I go into Fortitude and apply this as my inner corner highlight. And here we have the finished look. On the lips I am wearing, I already put it away, it's a MAC lip liner, Oak, and then I topped it off with the Givenchy Milky Nude lip gloss. Honestly, I like that. I like that look. This look just showed me why I initially bought the Coyish, why I was waiting for so long to have it available in Europe before I was affiliated with them. So what I want to say is I bought this myself back then, and I just reminded myself why I did. So, I just touched one of the shades. This will definitely stay. This goes back into my collection. I'm very satisfied with the look. To be honest, since these are all magnetic and this is supposed to be taken out and maybe even rearranged, I'm even thinking of getting a big magnetic pan and make one big Viseart palette, because I sometimes just struggle with just focusing on one Viseart product, but that's just for the future. So in total, one palette was eliminated in this video. The other two are back into the collection, and I'm very satisfied with the outcome, to be honest. 1 out of 3 is a good thing, and the maybe pile is not there to be decluttered. It's there to remind myself why I liked it, or maybe just to prove myself that my thoughts about this are just not as positive as I try to tell myself. So more videos will come in this format. I really like this. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure to subscribe so you do not miss these, and I see you soon.